Hello, welcome to the episode of AI Ranch. My name is Eval Zurtans. I'm a researcher, associate professor, and today we are looking how AI is affecting all sorts of businesses and especially design and branding. And today with me is Mikelis Bastiks, who is an expert graphic designer, branding specialist. I would say with the leading branding agency here in the Baltics, Asketic. So he's been in this field for many, many years. Some of the biggest brands around here, iconic brands, are his work, like TED, Riga International Airport, Testil, the biggest conference for startups here, and many, many others, even household brands. So, and we want to understand how this creative process is affected by AI. And in this podcast, we want to discuss this. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so can you share a little bit of background? How did you become the founding partner in Asketic and in general designer? Did you always want to be the designer branding specialist?
Yeah, I think that the word that comes to mind when you describe that is tinkering. That you just start to tinker with something that you find interesting, and then you discover it more and more, and you start to like it, and then you start to understand it, and then it probably becomes a business. And I'm old enough to remember the world before internet, when we had the first dial-up modems, when you connected to internet. And for us, when we started our business, we were actually in high school, so we were not interested in design in particular, but we were interested in tinkering with internet, with computers. And then we found out that the thing that we like is called design. And then you start to think, okay, what is design? How do you do it? But actually, it was just internet, new technology, computers, something fascinating, and not necessarily design. We just discovered that the thing we like making websites and drawing stuff in Photoshop, it's called design. And then we didn't have any education here, by the way, that you could learn design. So you just find your way through. I think the same that you had with programming. You didn't have actual programming programs in schools here, just started to learn by yourself.
Yeah, the tinkering part. And then if this field is not mature enough, then in that case, you need to learn in different ways.
By doing, yeah. I think that's the same with AI that probably we're going to touch here, but it's just, you start to nib on those things that you find interesting, even without knowing where it will lead. It's something that drives you and you want to find out more. And the same with design.
So it's not actually that you were particularly interested in arts and visual things, or was it something that's always been there for you?
Yeah, I think you always try to find some unique combination. It's not that you can learn in school this specific aspect, but then there's some aspect of technology that was innovative at that time, like internet and all that stuff. And then inherently you probably have some drive towards design and art that we had from our grandparents and in the background, but it wasn't intentional that we want to do this. It was just, somehow these two sides came together, plus something about businesses that you want to do some. At first it was like a school program for like pupils in high school trying to do their own business. And we just combined business, design, and technology. And then it evolved that, if you like these three things, then you can be called a design studio or something. And then you just think, okay, what do we do if we're a design studio? Do we do posters, designs, apps, websites, logos? We don't know. So we do everything. And then slowly you start to understand that you're the best at certain aspects, better than others. And for us, it turned out to be branding.
And it seems like that you get to this point, as you say, gradually, step by step. So if you would do it once again, would you do it different way, or this whole journey where you went through, this was necessary to actually be at this stage?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, right? You never know. Looking back, probably I would start again, then I would focus more, because in the beginning you don't know which way to go, what to do and what to discard, even if good advice. I remember we heard on some blogs that like big companies like Google and other big ones, they have this 20% rule that they give to their team, that you can do any creative project. So we thought, okay, that sounds good, so we'll do that again. And then in the end, we just discarded enormous amounts of time for projects that we never even actually intended to finish. We just heard that advice, took it, but it's like you can't take that and apply to like small 5-people team. That and I think we did many mistakes, but if we would had some smarter advisor that would tell us sooner to focus on something that makes you money, gives you some energy, and where you're good at, then the sooner you find it, the further you can go. But
Yeah, you also touched a little bit that you started even at a time when Photoshop was not available or just came on the stage. So how do you see that technology has changed the way how designers work from that time up to today?
yeah, I think you and me were the last generation that knows life before internet.
Yeah.
Or like you had to actually dial up and take the whole landline of phone that nobody could call your family because you were on the internet. And I remember I specifically took on a job at some preschool, cleaning up the school, like washing floors, and every day I went there, I did the cleaning, and because I knew that in the teacher's office they had one computer that I could connect to the internet, and then after I finished work, I connected. I could
Download stuff.
and I could like I design some websites, and it was weird time. And the first actually magazine we did with my partner, business partner, it was on the Macintosh Classic, this small computer that's like this big. It was like the screen was this small, and it was black and white. But we designed newspapers for school and for church, and it was like that's how you learn. But it wasn't because of design; it was because of something innovative. And I think it has many similarities with AI now. You don't know what it is and where it will lead, but it's very interesting to explore and like just see what will become of it.
Yeah, but then okay, this was very beginning, and then over the time, is it just like this old computer, Photoshop, and then now AI, or did you saw some other steps in between?
In between, we just at first we did everything related to design and Photoshop and everything, and then at some point you understand that there are some aspects that you're better and some aspects you like more and you're good at, and there are aspects where you can make money and which ones are just for fun. And for example, like I like doing book covers, but it's very hard to do a business
Yeah.
creating book covers or I don't know album covers for bands, and we were always interested in business and design, and branding is the discipline that brings these two disciplines together. So we just started focus more and more on that. And at first, yeah, we did websites, apps, games. You remember together we did one game as well, and then you slowly just put everything aside and focus on one discipline in the design field, and then do that for 10 years or 15 years.
And just lastly on the skills, tools, and this part. So with the AI technologies available nowadays, so how important are those basic skills where people are able to draw, imagine, create things just on the paper instead of asking examples for these generators?
Well, I think like the basic skills are the most important ones and the ones that will probably last longer. I think that from what you mentioned, it's have being able to have an idea and to understand if this idea fits well with the task I'm trying to do, and being able to express this idea with basic drawing or basic text or basic voice, so that the tools you use can be used to convert that idea into something tangible. And I think it's amazing time to be alive actually, and I think it will give many opportunities to people who had ideas but they didn't have those technical skills. They couldn't draw, they couldn't make videos, they couldn't maybe do photos, illustrations, everything, but they had this idea. And now they have many tools that they still need to learn, but then you're one person like stay-at-home mom or, I don't know, working as a clerk in some company, but you always had this weird idea that otherwise would be very expensive to try out. You need to hire a copywriter, an illustrator, a videographer, like everything together. Now you just spend a few afternoons learning these tools and you can try your new idea and see if it works. and you can do that. Like one or two people can create.
So this is kind of this solo entrepreneurship powered by AI. So I know many examples, like for example the Stastiem.com, where there is this a guy who is making children's books, illustrated children's books with story about your children, with cartoonish images of your kid there, and you can order, like, put all of this on the website. It generates all of this stuff, back orders, prints it as a physical book, and you have a gift. So that's one of the examples. But then also, so these basic skills, I like that you say that the basic skills, which you think you can easily automate, is actually important to learn, because what I see is when sometimes just recently in one of the conference for for all of the gymnasiums here in Latvia, high schools, so they also ask, so okay, ChatGPT, large language models, AIs in general can do so many things. So basically, what kids then should learn, but then instead of just using the easiest route, okay, let's give ChatGPT and teach how to use it. Instead, if these kids and also like designers learn exactly the same things that can be automated, but do like at better level, or at least the same level, or at least the same understanding as this model, then when you use the model, then you have this advantage. But if you don't have any of that and you just use the model, then you're all the same. So you have no difference in the market between guy who just pick up and generate logos and the professional generating logos, if that professional is not able to do this manually as good as the model.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, and also I think very important is the skill to understand and evaluate the things that the model is generating. So you need an understanding of history, of culture, or like the general public that you're trying to communicate, and you need to be able to see, like, if this idea that I had generated by the model is better than the other one. And to know that, you need to understand people, you need to understand history, you need to understand art and culture, and these things combined, then you can be like the director or curator that selects the best elements of everything that AI can generate for you.
But still, you kind of go into sideways, but regarding all of the supportive skills. But still, I have this hypothesis, which I hope will turn out right, is that in any skill where you want to be in the future marketplace competitive, you must be either close to or better than these AI models in that specific skill, where then using these models, you can leverage that. For example, simple example, everybody is using now large language models to do the summaries, put a huge text and do the summary. And if you're working in some, like, let's say, journalism, where you actually need to do summaries, and you do use only models for that, and you're not able as a human being to write a qualitative summary, then you will never know if that summary is good or not good. You will just use it as is. And some other guy who is professionally taught himself how to write good summaries will outperform you, right?
Yeah, and you need to be able to understand what is a good summary and what is a boring summary and what is excellent summary.
Yeah, but to do that, you need to be able to, if necessary, do it yourself. It's not just learn what is good or bad. It's very difficult without application.
But I think there are disciplines where you will not need to be able to do it yourself to be able to select the best option. For example, in imagery, I think there are a lot of people who are good storytellers, for example. They can write a good story, and then they need an illustration for that story. And maybe they have very good understanding of culture and art, and they've spent their life going to museums and looking at art, and they inherently know what art they feel resonates with the community they're trying to speak, but they not necessarily can draw it themselves. I would like a painting in this specific style, and before it was impossible for that person to draw it. She or he could write the story or think about the idea, but then with these AI tools, she can hire an expert painter from, I don't know, 18th century that will paint that for her. And I think that person will not ever be able to draw it herself or himself, but she can select the one that she knows will fit perfectly for that specific situation.
Okay, let's go to a little bit to some problems that you commonly see, like in your own professional experience and also the clients. So, what are some common challenges that companies have with their brands and the needs that they come to you?
You mean in branding in general, or with respect of AI?
So no, I would say first because the AI, like mostly in my experience, is a great tool for existing processes or existing problems that you solve, not invent new problems just to solve by AI. So I would say that initially, like, just what are the problems that they come?
I think for small businesses, they usually lack resources. They lack people or money or time. And all these AI models in different ways, I think, will help small businesses to accelerate faster. Because if you're a small 1 or 10 or 30 people team, you have very limited resources to do, for example, marketing. And then finally you can speed up some of the things and systemize them and have a like smart assistant that helps you do the things you never had the time of. They were not your primary focus, but now that you can do it in 2 hours instead of 2 days, finally it makes sense to do that.
Okay. So the one the lack of resources and I guess actually those companies then can so if somebody comes to you without enough resources, you can point to them to some solutions where they can do it themselves, basically.
Yeah, and for example, if you're working in marketing in some company, and then you have a task that you need to do to give to an agency, and before you probably gave like a task to the agency, give me ideas to do a specific task. Now, with many AI tools, you yourself can do the initial examination. You can ask the AI to give you some ideas, or you can give your idea and then ask to give you 10 more, and then you can ask them to visualize them to see if it actually would work. And then you find the one idea that you really like, and then you give that to the agency and say, okay, let's work on this one. And then you've saved, for example, 2 or 3 days or a few €1,000 in research and ideation phase that you could do yourself in
But
2 hours.
this is a kind of common thing that I have seen already. So we had some situation where indirectly, because we're not super focused on design itself, but indirectly the client wanted to have some kind of for one of the digital products, some kind of logotype, and then we hired, we have some good designers that do the designs. Then they say we don't like it, and what they do, they go to the logo generators, generate themselves something which makes the hair stand up, the designers, and say this is what we want. But actually, what we should do is incorporate that in the process, that they start with this.
Yeah, I think that's also is at this level, at least for some of the aspects in branding, it's not possible to do the final designs with like generate logos. Of course, you can do it, but it still lacks many things. But it can be very useful in the initial research phase when you need need to cover a wide area to see like which direction is the best for us, and then you can use these tools to cover a lot of ground before you select, okay, this and that is something we like and we will develop further. Because if you need to test, I don't know, hundreds of ideas, then you need to do it by hand, it will take a lot of time. Now, if you can quickly iterate them, see, okay, I thought in my head that it's gonna look nice. When I actually do it in Midjourney and generate this image and say it's actually not that good as I imagined, I can discard it, and I can do that 10 or 100 times. And even if nothing else, at least I've examined all possible routes before I select the one I think is the best.
But in your process, it's already the process that for some picky clients, you first ask them to generate some sketches themselves, so you don't lose time on building
No.
things that they don't like at all.
Not like in that particular case, but I've had friends who work in marketing and who said like, I asked some agency to give me ideas, and the ideas are very average. I said, of course, because it's like they don't give you top talent to do that, but you actually, with some generative models, you can actually create those ideas yourself, then decide with your company internally which ones do you like, and then go to the agency and ask them to execute this one specific thing.
This is like a homework for anyone coming to you, actually.
Yeah, and you can create better briefs, and then you can ask some AI tool to create an image of that brief, and then you see, is this really that something we like? Okay, if it is, then go on. If not, try different styles. And
so this is an initial great tool to get to the result faster. And what is other roles of AI in the creativity of the AI designer? Like you said, you explore things, right? Can you do anything else except exploring things?
of course, you can create actual visual like images, mock-ups, and photography, but at this stage, I think only you need still to refine them. It's not usable as a final thing. But for example, if you need some 3D renders at this stage, you can create the final mile much better with AI than with hand. For example, if you create a very basic 3D interior architecture or whatever you need, and before you had to do like every small detail with flora and fauna and trees and grass and textures, to make that with hand in 3D, it's very time consuming. But now you create the main structure, and then you run, for example, in Magnific AI, and it gives this small, subtle, realistic details for trees, for leaves, for grass, for textures, for shadows, for skin, that makes it look real. And that speeds up the 3D process.
Isn't also useful for displaying brands in different these images or videos, where you can use some kind of Adobe generative AI and just take some stock images. So I don't like their cactus. Let's put this some other flower, and
that's like those small things speed up the process hugely. For example, in Christmas we had many cases where you have a nice image, you want to use it on the website, but then you say, but we need to add some Christmas elements to it. So you just take this cactus and then turn it into a pine branch, and suddenly it has this Christmassy vibe
small
to it.
pine tree.
So yeah, you take existing image and just add, like, there's a blanket with some stars, there's a pine tree, and then suddenly you can restyle the existing assets. And also, like, the basic things that you generate sides and some areas that you never had before. We've had many cases where you have this source photographies, for example, in portrait mode, very narrow, and you need to make it a landscape, and you can do it now in 3 minutes instead of, I don't know, doing a reshoot. And also, we had one case where you had a image where the person was in a wheat field, and you actually needed, the story was that you need the person to be in an apple orchard. So you just flip the wheat to an apple orchard, and it looks stunning, and it's like crazy. And
with Adobe generative.
yeah, that was with Adobe, yeah. And then with Magnific, this new feature of style transfer is also amazing, that we have some reference images from photo shoots, but we know that we want to do an illustration or painting of that, and then we try multiple different artistic directions of the same person, and then see which direction would look better. And if we would want to do it by hand before, it would take thousands of euros.
Yeah, so you need to guess pretty precisely before doing.
Because, like, the creative people, at least, they can imagine how that image would look, like as a hand drawn, watercolors, oil painting, I know, 3D. And the client, who is not a visual person, it's very hard for them to imagine how it would look. So the option is just trust the designer, or ask them to draw all of them.
So this helps you to ensure better trust between client as well.
Better trust, and the gap between the known and the uncertainty is much more narrow.
What do you think about the more common tools like these DALL-E, Midjourneys, and so are they just gimmicks or playable tools, or are they actually usable somewhere?
Well, of course they are usable, just to maybe, as a DALL-E is now more like a sketch, for if you want a simple sketch of something. For us, we mostly use Midjourney now. We use Magnific AI for small tasks within the current workflow. Very often you can use the generative fill in Adobe. because it's there. You don't
Yeah.
have to go to another app
Yeah.
and then put in the image, do
Yeah.
something. It's just for small things, like you need an extra something on top of the image or on the sides, or switch something. It's a very handy tool. It's not very advanced, but for simple tasks, it's super fast.
Where it breaks.
Uh, I think if you need to generate something new, for example, you have an image, you want some specific object here. I don't know, make a rabbit here. It's not that good to read the overall style, and it does some
So it will
weird.
be out of domain. It will
Yeah, it's
not be
like,
the same
but
style.
within the actual means of Photoshop, for example, I have a square image and I need it vertical, and then I just have generate some imagery on top and on the bottom, it's perfect. And I could, of course, do that by hand, cloning and adding textures and lightning. It's all doable by hand, but that would take me half an hour. Now I can do it in 3 minutes.
It is actually transforming the branding process. It makes it different as it was before, right?
Yeah, it makes it faster. It's kind of a jet fuel. If you know what you're doing, and if you know these tools, they speed up the process and they widen your scope of things. You can now select with more certainty that this is the direction we want to go, instead of just, this is the only direction I know how to make. For example, if I need to do an illustration, if I'm an illustrator now, I only have some specific skills that I can use. But maybe in this situation for the client, it would be better to use different style. And now I'm an illustrator. I know how to understand different styles. I have references, but my personal skills is just one style. And now I can try and sketch out with AI models different styles, and then together with client, I can choose which one is the best. And then we can see if that's good enough, and we can upscale it with Magnific or Gigapixel AI, and you can have a print
But
quality.
have you already using these techniques tried other styles that you would not attempted before?
Yeah. We've done different designs that are already in the public that otherwise would be very expensive and hard to do by hand. It's doable, but that would cost like 10 times of what it did for the client. And now it's doable, and we can get that in high quality print, and it looks amazing.
And do you think that this situation with AI tools, so it should somehow save us from this uniform, same looking brands that are for every tech startup you go to tech
Looks the
show,
same.
like almost they use the same fonts, like some small thing in the front and then name or something.
Yeah, and why is that? It's because it's the most efficient way to do something by hand. The illustrations are very simple, the font is very simple, everything is very efficient if you have to do it by hand. Now imagine if suddenly you can pick from any direction you want, and it's the time to make it is the same, then suddenly you can do whatever feels more on brand for you. For example, one can do it in 3D, the other one can do black and white, the other one can do some, I don't know, water or oil color painting style, because to generate it, it doesn't take any more time than the basic vector illustrations you had before.
So what are the kind of common mistakes and that you have seen somebody attempting to use this? Have you seen any where they produce some kind of brands or digital design based on these tools, and it goes wrong?
I think currently the main culprit is that people do a very basic job of it, and you can easily discern, okay, this is basic AI, like without any styling, without any direction, you just take the default of what AI gives you. And that looks very default, and that doesn't give you any good vibes, I think. But if you master these tools to get from them what you actually want, and you know what you want to get, then they're very interesting. I think the most important mistake people do is that they actually don't have an idea of what they actually want. They just
How you can is AI can help with this?
Yeah, but for example, like the AI can give you anything you can ask for, and if you don't know what to ask for, then you just get some basic stuff. But if you know many different styles and you can name them, and you know which one your audience will appreciate the most, then you can suddenly ask them for very specific things that your audience will say, wow, I'm crazy, looks amazing. We've never seen something like that before, instead of just doing whatever. So ideas are more valuable than ever. And if you have an idea and you know this idea will resonate with my group of people, then AI allows you to visualize that idea.
Yeah, but as I always say, actually, is that also from the research for at least the parallel field of the language models, is that if you buy the proper language model license like GPT-4, so it's actually funny that in Baltics, maybe it's also in other parts of the world, is that people are not that willing yet to pay for these things, but actually these models run on expensive hardware and you need to pay for them. And then if you pay these 20 euros a month for GPT, you get yourself up from 0 to 70% quality
Very
just
fast,
just
yeah.
like that, like because it's actually with the results from the exams, so we can just type in questions from all sorts of exams in chemistry, literature, like law and so on, and you get about like 70-80% grades. And then of course it's not like Einstein level, but it's good enough, so it basically gets you very fast to those 70%, but it's not 90, not 80%.
And I think that's like everyone will win from that. It will just get rid of 4-level ideas that are very low, and we'll get this, the average will rise. And of course, but the most interesting thing that it's hard to understand what will be the 8 and 10 level of everything. That's like what we're talking now, that's the like consumer goods of AI. It's like very vanilla. It's like, it's not that sophisticated and everyone can do it, but I think the
one interesting thought is that all of these models are trained with the data that humans have produced up till the models, and then when you have the models, maybe that what you say, 80, 90, 100%, this will be might take very long time to get to something where you see a huge difference, because again it will probably be I think like a not so significant visual differences, just that if the person is able to do that work, what the generative AI model is able to do, and they do it approximately the same level, a little bit better, and then combine with that, then you can produce something for the model to learn from in the future. But otherwise, if everybody is using just the model, then not only the models are not generating anything more, but the society, creativity level, everything goes to that level. What is the model, you know?
Yeah, or it frees up time for real artists who want to go beyond that. They will be able to do that because the average level will rise to this 70-80%, and that's covered, and that frees up hands and demand for like this innovation and real breakthrough that can only be done with certain few people who think beyond that. So I think that will be interesting. And I know.
But what kind of limitations already you see in you know, with the design tools? You mentioned one that you think that right now these generative fill tools may be not yet up to speed, but I believe it's just a matter of time. You see some other major limitations that or like or you think that in, let's say, the last few years, like even more things will be possible to do? And
I hope that there will be more niched down tools for specific use cases, because now a lot of this wow and amazing factor that we see is just generating random stuff. But if you need very specific things for a specific brand, for a specific product, it's still hard to do exactly what I need. I can do something here and there, but not like I have this specific product in this specific environment, and then please generate me that image. That's still hard to do, and there's a lot of visual glitches that and probably they will be solved in the future. And now it's just more of this exploration phase, and then people will find these more specific use cases. For example, with 3D, you can now actually create a very basic model, and then you can use AI to make it more realistic. That's a very specific use case for 3D artists.
so you're not talking about Midjourney, right? Or something
No,
else?
that's for Magnific AI. You can,
Okay.
for Magnific AI, you can add very basic 3D model, and then you can add texture. And what's interesting as well, they now have this style transfer feature. When you, for example, you have a photo or 3D of this room, and then you can apply different styles and see what changes in interior you want. For example, you have these chairs and you want to see, okay, how it would look if we had red chairs and there would be, I don't know, different elements here. And then you go through, when you build a house or you try to design your room, then you see 20 different versions of possible interior designs within your actual room, and it takes a few minutes. And that's a very specific use case that you can do. It's still hard to do. For, I don't know, I have a specific cup and I want to have this specific cup in different parts of the world. That's still not that easy to do. You can hack
again, but this comes down to what you said, these tools tailored made for task and data sets. And this is also one misconception maybe other viewers might not know. I think that a lot of times people think something like this. So ChatGPT, it knows everything up till 2021. It's not absolutely case. It's completely wrong. So first of all of these generative models do not know everything. They know very small pieces of actually information. So they like ChatGPT. It's trained on a little bit of Wikipedia, a little bit of Common Crawl, a little bit of Reddit. That's why it's so radical in the comments, because it's trained a lot of on Reddit, and it's not trained on, like I'd say, 99% of other internet. It's just trained on cocktail of data, because if you would put everything in, it will take 10 years for this model to train. It's not really feasible right now. And the same goes with image generation and fill models. They are based on specific data sets, and that's why you're getting what you're getting. So, and if there would be companies developing these tools for, let's say, specific use case with different data, you'll get completely different results.
Do you think that will happen, that you'll get more specific
It's already
models?
happening. It's happening very, very fast already. So there is large language models. By the way, as you know, maybe the Grok is also now open source. That's the huge model. The before also other models, and each of them are trained on completely different data sets. They respond completely differently. They compete on the same benchmarks, but they can be made tailor-made for specific task. And there is no one giant supermodel for everything. It's a big illusion that many people still have.
Yeah, and I think there are many use cases you could use. For example, if you're creating new business, a new brand, and it's a lot of this is just guessing game. You still don't know whether this product will sell, like what audience will like this product and what different visual style will fit best for that audience. And if you would have these different models that could be like a smart assistant, that you'll say, okay, I have this idea about this product, please help me find the best market niche for that. And for this niche, like what would be the best visual style that would feel a bit innovative but still recognizable, and you can adjust those parameters and okay, I need at least the market size of that, and I have strength in these fields, and we can produce that but not this, and we can produce in certain amounts, like, and then it helps you to create a brand strategy for your product before spending a lot of time on, I don't know, Facebook ads, where you just, that's how people test now. They design a product and then they spend a lot of money on Facebook ads because that's the best you have at the moment to see where it sticks. You try different markets, different audiences, and then try to see what sticks with. If AI could help you do that before spending a lot of money on not too good quality research, then those models could help you do smarter choices.
Okay, let's go to the money. We're coming to the end, but still the money part. So now we are in this transformation of AI technologies, and you've been through different transformations through your career in this branding. So if before some mid-sized company came to you and asked for rebranding, the design books, or how you call them,
and brand guidelines,
brand guidelines, and so on, how much it cost before and how much it costs now? Is it change, or is it becomes more expensive?
I think not yet. Because you still need to learn those tools, and they're changing rapidly week by week, and you need to catch up. But I think it will give higher quality product for the company. I think the end result will be more diverse, and you will get more functional things that you can use by hand. For example, if there would be a model that you could use to input the main parameters of a brand, say let's like use this type of layouts, these colors, these fonts, these images, and describe the overall direction you want to go. And then the model would generate you templates, it would generate you ideas for text, it could generate you some other practical outcomes that the marketing team can just take and start using the next day instead of slowly implementing them.
It's not really affecting price, it's just making the more qualitative product.
Yeah, instead of just having maybe 2 or 3 touch points that you can use, you suddenly have the whole spectrum that you need.
So, and we're talking about like in this Baltics region, so it's like per mid-sized companies, let's say starting from 10K per brand, or it's like 100K, or what is the price range?
Well, it starts from, I don't know, 10, 20K to 100K to millions. It can be anything, because it comes down to the actual elements you need to create. For example, you need to just write one post, or you need to create a year's worth of copyright. Because many companies come to us and say, okay, now we have nice identity, we need somebody to write the copy, the text. Then can you suggest some copywriter? But it would be nice that when you create a brand identity, you can train a small language model to specific character of that brand, and and whenever somebody from the company needs some text, they just go to their company model, they ask, okay, give me newsletter about this, this, and this. Here are the data, here are the information, or give me captions for post on social media, or for presentation, or for conference. And then the model will give you text that's not generic, but that's trained to your specific brand. And it knows the history of your brand, it knows the character of your brand, it knows how aggressive or friendly or humorous it can be. And then it differs from your competitors, because you've inputted all the parameters that's specific for your brand.
Well, is it somehow different from just putting the data in ChatGPT Assistant, or?
I think that's the basic thing you can do now. You just add the parameters, but it still lacks.
It can also generate some interesting content which was not expected.
Yeah, but then I think in my dream scenario, you have your specific brand assistant that helps you generate different basic tasks that otherwise they're too small to assign a specific team to create, but you need them on a daily basis, or you need 10 of them. And then you would not call a designer to create that, but you know what you need, you have the style parameters defined, you know the tone of voice that you need, and then you just ask me quickly, create me this slide for presentation, and you have that, and it's on brand for your specific company.
Right, it seems logical. It's something like this should happen already, or somebody's doing this, or soon will be doing. So, and how long it takes, like if somebody comes to you and the whole brand book, and
it usually takes few weeks or months, but if you do it by the book, of course you can what we call backwards branding, where you just hack your way through from one specific touch point. For example, you say, I need a presentation in 2 weeks. I don't have anything else, but let's start with this presentation or website or whatever touch point you need, and then you work backwards from that. You start designing this one specific item, and by doing that, you define colors, fonts, logo, everything else. So you can do anything that works, actually.
Okay, so towards the end, like I know I have kids, you have kids, so what are the kind of skills and the knowledge that you think you need to put into your kids, into your employees, into the future, so that they would stay competitive?
It's a good question that keeps me awake at night a lot of days, but what I'm starting to think more and more is that I want to understand myself and teach my children the timeless history lessons that were true 100 years ago, or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, because my belief is that these are the fundamental things that will still be useful, and the technology will change so rapidly that you will not be able to catch up with the rise of technology, but the fundamental aspects of like how people relate to each other, what is greed, what is love, what are relationships, like how these fundamental things
tested by time as
tested
well.
by time, and if you know those, I think you will make better decisions. And because what you see in China now, even without AI, it's scary how fast China is moving, and then you understand you will not be able to train your children with the same speed and passion that like some Chinese parents are training their children, and they're pushing their limits to the extreme. And I don't want my children to be pushed to that extreme just to show like what's the maximum capability somebody can achieve. But if they're content, they're loved, they can make independent decisions, and they understand how humans work, I think that's the only thing that's like the only competitive advantage they can have.
Okay, that's the that's a good advice. So and yeah, so the viewers, where they can find you?
I think you can find anywhere just by searching for Asketic or just my name, and hopefully the internet will show up some good results.
Yeah, so Mikelis is also hosting a podcast with also, I think, quite interesting people and from different areas around here and also the world. So from the design perspective, right? Or
design and branding and business.
Yeah, so that's definitely worth checking out. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining another episode of AI Ranch. And as a gratitude for our work, please consider subscribing, liking this video so we spread the word, and see you in the next one. Thank you.